Welcome back. We're here again with Paul Fry talking about the potential impact and potential issues related to the upcoming election from a business perspective. Paul is the president and CEO of the Hagerstown, Washington County Chamber of Commerce. Henry.
Well, Paul, I'm going to follow up because we were in a meeting earlier.
Yes.
And you brought up the book, Thank You for Being Late, okay, about the reactionary time has become so truncated in today's society because of the advantages of technology.
Yes.
Do you think there should be required reading for those in public office?
So this is the 500-plus page book you're talking about with real small print, and it took me my week-long vacation to get through it. And Thomas Friedman talks about the impact of technology on our lives at all aspects. And so it's Thank You for Being Late, an optimist's guide to thriving in the age of accelerations. And because of technology, things are moving so quickly, we can't run government the same way. We can't do education the same way. We can't run business the same way because technology is outrunning us. And if we try to do things the same way, we're going to get left behind. And so required reading, I would say you're missing something. I got this from speaking of our library. Mary Bicon, the library, introduced me to this book. And it's very, for me, very engaging to get through it. So I think required reading, I think if you're running for office or if you're in office, if you're running a business, if you're running educational, you should look at it. I got the Cliff's Notes. It's only this thick. It doesn't do it justice. So I tried doing it. So again, government cannot keep doing legislation the same way because by the time you react to technology, it's changed again. It talked about education. Our four-year schools have to look at doing their education in 3 years because of the cost and because it changes so quickly. And so we're doing some of this here locally at HCC and USMH. They're working together. What are some of the programs? Companies are already doing this. Businesses are doing this because if they're not, they're out of business.
Well, I'll follow up on my follow-up here. Maryland, we have a 90-day legislative session. Washington County doesn't have home rule, which means we require for any significant changes to happen at the state level and not by the local county government. Would you be an advocate for giving more authority to our local county government, or is that too delicate a question to ask?
No, I'm not an expert here, but I think the more you can have the decisions made locally, whether it be through schools, whether it be through our government, I think the better because you can respond more quickly, you can be more agile. So whatever that looks like, I think would be good because waiting a year for major legislation is just too long in this day and age.
And it's not even major legislation. It amazed me some of the things that have to run through the state's hands before we can act on them. It's it's spraying for bugs and
right.
I mean it's that level of stuff. And it's larger stuff too, but I mean that's just amazing. I want to follow up on something that Ron said, and actually it was a response to Ron's question. You talked about the fact that private sector has to be and will be the driver. One of the questions I have, and this is my personal opinion, I've wondered sometimes if government has tried to stretch to bring in private. So we buy a building for $150,000, we renovate it at the tune of $100,000, and then we sell it off at $130,000 at a significant loss. Obviously, there's some things like that government has to do. How important do you think that type of issue is? Do you think that's something that, is there a good place for that in our economic development process?
Again, I think it's about partnering, and you have to engage the private sector because there's some folks who own buildings who think that's unfair. They're operating at a disadvantage because they have to invest their money, but the city can invest taxpayer money, and then they can charge less for it and make some money, and that the private sector is saying that's not fair because we can't do that. So I think there's a role. I think again, it's engaging the business sector to say what would help you. How can we manage this with the taxes we can raise, and how do we do this together? So everyone has great intentions. There's no one I've met that doesn't have good intentions. Again, I think getting people together and collaborating, asking what is best, is sometimes a missing piece. And again, it takes a long time to get through that, and I'm not sure another way, but we have to figure out how to do things differently.
Well, government does have to be that push, whether it's with USMH, whether it's with the district court building, whether it's with BISFA, whether it's with
Maryland
the
Theater.
Washington County Museum of Fine Arts, the Maryland Theater. So many of those things are driven by outside people. And if we waited for the private sector, you have local developers in this town that will develop, I'll say who it is, Assad Gataz. Assad will go out, he doesn't go into council meetings or county commissioners meetings and get in an argument for this. He gets a building, he builds a building, and what does he do in that building? He keeps it filled up. Now, how does he do that?
Very successful.
When we have downtown parking lot after parking lot that business people could buy it and really do something with it. Do they want to do it? Is there business people around here that want to put up or shut up?
I think so.
Do they really have the money they want to put into things?
I think so, and there has to be a return. I do know the city's been talking about how to do that. How do you turn some of those over, and you're not making any taxes off it now. How can we sell it at a discount? Those empty lots, or so.
They got the tax incentive because you got so much of this vacant space. It's in an enterprise zone, Paul. So they've already got the tax incentive, and they don't do it.
We do have, as you mentioned early on in the conversation, we do have private investors that are making investments in downtown, and some of them have not done so well, but Mr. Bowman hopefully has done well and will continue to do well, and others.
But he goes after it. He follows through. He builds it. He leases.
That's about a personal brand and a personal commitment.
But you need more than Mr. Bowman and Mr. Gataz.
I understand that. But
so where's the rest of the people?
There's the marketing effort.
Who's going to start marketing? Or are we going to wait another 10 years?
No,
You're
we're not going to wait
badgering the witness.
Yes.
You're badgering the witness. He does this all the time.
But at the same point, I mean, we have these huge tax incentives that we give to, I'll name it, Walmart, Sharpsburg Pike, to build a massive building paying essentially minimum wage to, it's helping our unemployment figures in the community, but at what expense to the community? With all the taxes that the infrastructure that had to go, there's a lot of, is it worth making a major tax incentive to bring employer in paying minimum wage versus bringing an employer in maybe providing manufacturing jobs? Do we have the existing infrastructure with I-81 and 70? Is it substantial enough to handle additional freight traffic going across those roads?
It's complicated, it's complex. Again, everyone has great intentions, and how can we work together to keep moving? Those are great questions, and how do we move them forward, and how do we have those conversations?
How do you get more Bowmans and Assad Gatazes in the community?
From a business perspective, what is the business community, from what you hear, what are they wanting to see be priority for government, local, state, national, whatever? Interstate 81, is that an issue for them? Economic development, workforce, what are the top three that you've heard?
And I don't know if it's related to government, but it's the workforce. We need qualified workforce for what we're moving into, whether it be warehousing or computers or robotics, whether it be biotech. It's really technology. And so I think it's not what government can do, it's here's our needs. And the state of Maryland, they have an apprenticeship program that has now been rolled out for the whole state. We pilot it here in Washington County and in Frederick County. So I think having some programs, I think making it easy and making it so that there's not a ton of bureaucracy to get things done. That is what I hear. So I think this Apprenticeship Maryland is a great program that's been a partnership.
I applaud the governor and what he's done on a lot of these programs.
Yeah. So I think it's how can we do things with less bureaucracy? And again, no one wants to break any rules, but how do we do it easier? And how can we make it so that the government can say yes, how can we get you there? Yeah. So that's what I'm hearing.
The school system piece and the education piece, one of the things that I've noted over the last several years is there are a lot more, we heard constantly about the gap between June when the kids get off of school and August or now September when they go back. And I see a lot more of these programs popping up. My kids attended at least one program each over the summer, a STEM program or whatever, that were educational based, not just going to a swimming pool or sitting and playing a game. Is that part of what this new group that you talked about?
On Track. Here's a great example. We had a summer learning loss program or meeting a few months ago. We had probably 30 partners in there. And Maria Rubling at the YMCA said once she found out what the school is trying to do with their iPads they send home, she said, send the iPads to me, give me the program, and when the kids want some downtime or when it's raining or inside, I can have them do those programs. So tell me what you want me to have them do and I can do it. And so that's again about the collaboration, that how can we work together? We have a lot of people doing good things. How can we do it so we're moving in the same direction? And so that's just one example. The Bester Community of Hope is involved with how can we work with our kids and align with the school system. What are you trying to make sure they do over the summer, whether it be spelling, reading? We can make that part of our program. So those are some of the things that I think make sense and are being done with our partners here in the community.
You see there, Henry, how much Paul just talked about? How many different programs that are out there? Who knows it?
Again, that's the marketing piece. Yeah, you're right.
But again,
I know.
Who knows it? You're a market guy.
I am.
Yes,
I am.
You're a
yeah.
market guy.
He is today.
Yeah, you're a market guy. How do you get this market out there? You've got a TV station here with a FlipSide that you can get so much information out. You've got so many different areas. How do we get it out? The county has started on Facebook putting a lot of what you're talking about out and getting it shared. And I notice the city's doing the same thing. Yeah. But there seems like there isn't. You've got
parents are a good connection. We found we have to get to the parents because they don't know what's available for their kids, the students, and there are a lot of resources that are out there that they're not free because they're taxpayer paid for or nonprofits, but they're out there and available. They're being unused, and so I think getting to the parents is an aha about how can we communicate with them.
And because a lot of our county is more rural than is developed, WCPS is a great, effective tool for communication, because almost anyone in this county has had a child go through our school system.
We work with our docs, we work with our pediatricians, here's what's available, work with the library. So again, it's getting that message out.
Why wouldn't some year that Leadership Washington County do something like this and make it their project for the year?
I'll call Tara tonight when I get home.
Tara could
She'd
have
probably be open to it, yeah.
Yeah, she could have something and say, how do we change this? Mm-hmm. How do we get the marketing done that we need?
So speaking of marketing, we're going to do some marketing right now with our commercial sponsors. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Paul Fry in about 3 minutes.